from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
That's the whole meaning of life, isn't it? Trying to find a place for your stuff. That's all your house is. Your house is just a place for your stuff.
So this is my basement. This is what I like to call organized chaos.
Stacy Surace appreciates the late George Carlin's humor, though she's not exactly in a laughing mood.
I would love to purge about 70% of this basement.
As she sorts through her possessions in suburban New York, the accumulation of a single mother with 2 kids. She's a bit desperate.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to the 26th season and this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, getting organized. We welcome 3 guests today. Lydia Christian joins us via Zoom from Scotts Bluff. Lydia is a professional organizer. And here in the studio we have Cameron Kreger, an attorney with Elder Law of Omaha, and Abby Graham. Abby is the program director for the Nebraska Recycling Council. Welcome to all of you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
You bet. You bet. Lydia, I want to start with you out there. Thoughts as you're watching that opening clip?
Overnight, and it will not get fixed overnight, but one step at a time, and it will.
I want to ask you, for those viewers watching, thinking to themselves, how can it get that bad, Lydia?
Many reasons. Perhaps not in that situation, but there are mental health issues, there are medical complications, there are trauma that can, and no fault of the person at all, but that can lead to a lot of disorganization and kind of in a semi-hoarding situation. Overbuying, our culture and our marketing tells us that buy it now, you need it, you deserve it. And so we do. And our houses become overstuffed. Collections, sports equipment from kids over the years, it just keeps coming in and nothing goes out of the house.
And what does that eventually lead to for those people living in that circumstance?
Well, perhaps in that lady's case, just a lot of frustration, a little unhappiness, but in other cases it can lead to depression. It can lead to financial bankruptcy. It can lead to divorce. It can lead to broken relationships. And if it goes to the hoarding situation, then not only are your items that you think you've been saving, they're deteriorating and falling apart, but your house is too because of animals in the house or pests, and then it's going to cost you a whole lot more to fix it, and maybe even you'll find that repair people won't come into the house if it gets to the hoarding situation.
Let's talk a little bit about solutions. 2 words, acceptance and perspective. How important are those?
Both, because if you don't accept it and kind of take ownership of your situation and see that you have the problem, it's difficult to move forward with solutions.
Okay. Lydia, what is a professional organizer? Tell us about you.
Well, many things. I'll start with maybe 1 part therapist, 1 part teacher, and 2 part listening ear.
Okay. And how did you get involved in all of this?
Well, I started, a friend of mine asked me to help her clean house and get ready for a party. She's an older lady raising a granddaughter late in life, and they had not unpacked since they moved into their house. And after spending 3 days there, I thought, you know what? I think there's a need for this in our community at home. I have been a business person for many years, and I knew that would end when my husband retired. So I thought, what does this community need that it doesn't have? And did some research and came up with Home and Office Organization.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your day-to-day, Lydia, about your business and what that really entails?
When I go to a client's home or before?
I think just the day-to-day of a professional organizer, just what you're doing every day.
Well, I don't organize every day because it is, you may do it 3 days this week, you may do it 2 days a week. I have found that most people can't handle more than about 3 to 4 hours of it, and they are burned out. They too many decisions, too many questions, and they're done. So 3 to 4 hours is all I can work with them. If I'm doing an estate where I'm there by myself or with helpers, we can work 8 hours and it's not a problem because we're not dealing with other people. We make all the decisions trying to get things taken care of. And it's easy in that respect. There is some hard labor when you have to do a lot of lifting. And at that point, we try to employ some other people to do the lifting for us.
Okay. As you're talking, I'm wondering, at what point does somebody know they need the help of a professional organizer?
When physically they can't do it, when their home has become unsafe, maybe there's a medical issue, and maybe when you want to keep your friends and family, because people have said, oh, I'll get my friends, I'll get my family to help me clean out the garage. But that's not a good idea because there becomes arguments, and the kids will tell the parents, oh, just throw all this stuff away. Why are you keeping it? And the parents get a little upset about it. So if you want to keep your friends and family, hire an organizer.
Walk us through the process of getting started. So somebody's watching today and they're saying, you know what, this sounds like a pretty good idea. I think I could benefit from the help of somebody like Lydia. Walk us through the steps in going through somebody like you.
The first thing I do is we set a time to do a home consultation where I come into the home and I walk through everything. I open drawers, open closets, cupboards. I see everything in every room that they want to be organized. We need to do it with no judgment, with kindness, with understanding, meeting the client where they're at. Doesn't matter at this point exactly why they got there. Let's get through it and get it cleaned up, organized, so they're happy. I want their goals. I want them to describe to me how they feel it's going to look like after it's done. And then again, we can work, 3 to 4 hours, depending on what their stamina is. And from there, we just keep setting dates to get it done. I always make sure that when I leave the premises, I take all garbage with me and I take all donations so that they don't have to have second thoughts or wonder, now what am I going to do with all these black bags?
Lydia, is there a recipe, for lack of a better term here, with which you work? In other words, when you walk into a home, are there certain steps that you actually take to start that whole decluttering process? Whether it's, hey, let's rule out what you don't want, let's rule out what you don't know what to do with, and then, maybe that third thing, or how is it that you go about it?
The kitchen, if we're starting in cupboards, first of all, we create a staging area of what you're going to keep, what you want to donate, what you want to sell, what you want to discard. And from the keep things, then we can kind of go back in a little bit after we've gone through all the cupboards and organize it in a way that they use it. I like to have the client work with me because it's their home. They're the ones that's going to be using it. So let's do it so it fits their needs and their purposes.
Yeah, one of the things that you said earlier, and I really like it, is to meet them where they are. I think sometimes we lose sight amidst all the clutter that some of these things in that house hold special meaning to that individual. They may not mean anything to us. They're not our items, right? So talk a little bit, especially to family members who might be watching, who are coming in and being lovingly critical of all of this stuff. We have to remember that might mean something to them.
It does. And I did get criticized by one lady's daughter that you need to get her to throw more things away and you need to work longer hours and this kind of thing. And I said, you have to understand, this lady is 80 years old and she's saying goodbye to a lot of the items that were hers over her life, her marriage and raising you kids. And she needs to talk about it and tell you what it is. She may keep some of it, she may not, but they need to talk about it. And it's saying goodbye to part of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, it can absolutely open the door to some beautiful dialogue too, talking about some of those things that are so meaningful. Lydia, I'm going to come back to you, but I need to go to Cameron now, our attorney today. I would imagine, Cameron, in most of those houses that Lydia enters, there are what we call important documents. How do you define important documents?
I think important documents would be mostly lifetime documents. So, you know, your estate planning documents, wills, trusts, powers of attorney, marriage certificates, birth certificates, military discharge records, the things that you're going to access throughout your life and that you need to access more than once. Basically, that's it, yeah.
Okay, now I need to ask, because sometimes when people get into this mode with a person like Lydia, they're like, okay, now I'm going gangbusters here and I'm just going to get rid of it all. Talk to us about what we should be keeping, what we should be shredding, and what's okay to toss.
What would be okay to toss is mostly, I would say, things that are not permanent, not lifetime. Recurring bills, when you think about the fact that you get an energy bill every month, but you have 10 pile up, just get rid of all the old ones, only keep your current ones. I think what's most important to remember is you might be able to find everything in your house, but what if you go into the hospital? What if you're incapacitated? God forbid, what if you die? Then your family members have to try to find stuff for you. So your most recent bills, they can figure out what needs to be taken care of. When we talk about those lifetime documents, make sure those are organized well. You might want to have them in a binder. I've heard of some people that just have cards in a recipe box that cite everything that's important. So I have a bank account at this bank. I have an insurance policy with this bank. I'm getting such and such a month from Social Security. I'm getting such and such a month from VA disability benefits. So that way, when if you're hospitalized and your daughter or son or whomever has to come into the house, they can easily access everything that's important, and they don't have to spend days, sorting through old mail, old boxes. I've certainly heard of cases of a guest bedroom just full of boxes of old bills and old documents, and you get the kids who come in and they're like, I don't even know where to start to try to find a power of attorney, to try to find a will, to try to find whatever.
Yeah, and I really can appreciate what you're saying about that accessibility. The last thing you want your family members doing if you're hospitalized is going through your home trying to figure out where they're supposed to be finding all this stuff that the professionals are asking you for. So I really want you to drive home. I think some folks think that maybe a bank is the safest place, a safety deposit box for some of this stuff. So Cameron, talk to us about truly that importance. They don't have to be accessible to everybody, but you need to communicate.
Yep. I know specifically for wills, you should not keep them in a safe deposit box simply because once your kids or loved ones come to your house, they might not know where your safety deposit box is, and then they can't find your will, and then your assets are going to be divvied up based on the state's wishes, not your wishes. So anything important that you want to keep in a safety deposit box, do so, but just make it clear that's where it's at. Again, spell it out in a binder, put it in your kitchen in a recipe box, something like that that's easily accessible. If you're getting rid of old documents, anything that has personal information, you should probably shred. If you don't have a shredder, you can go to FedEx. They'll do it for a fee. Anything that doesn't have personal information that's old, that's no longer relevant, just throw it away.
Okay, as long as I have you here.
Sure.
I do want to ask you, when we're talking about important documents, I see this as kind of an opportunity for people to pull all of that stuff together and say, okay, what do I have? But also, what don't I have?
Right.
What document can you think of that everybody should have in their house that maybe they don't have, and this process could get them to go that direction?
Well, again, I think the main thing would be if a third party needs to find out where your bank accounts are, what insurance you have, that's the stuff that you need to have spelled out. I think, when my grandfather died, my dad thought he had an insurance policy from years ago, but they had a hard time tracking down who was this insurance policy with. There's no paperwork anymore regarding it. We have no idea. And then, if you can't find it, then you're not getting that money, that insurance money that you deserve, that your loved one put money into over years or decades.
Okay, thank you. Abby, we really can't talk about this topic without talking about recycling, right?
Absolutely, yes. When it comes to things that you already own, reusing, repurposing, recycling, it's vital for giving it a second life. And I know for me, a lot of times I'm going through my clothes and getting rid of things. And it's something to keep in mind that every time you get rid of a pair of jeans, if you're throwing it away or however you're choosing to get rid of it, a new pair of jeans costs 700 gallons of water just to make in production. So it's something we don't think about, the cost of things, the value of things, just in the manufacturing. So when we're giving things away, it all still has value. It might just be a different type of value, and it's about finding where that value is going to be the highest return for your money and your time. So if I'm getting rid of clothes, I might be selling them online, something like that, or donating them so that I'm giving them that second life and choosing to recycle instead of just throwing away.
Wow, okay, we're gonna put up a list for our viewers as you walk us through some of those items that we are able to recycle.
Definitely. So the opportunities for recycling in Nebraska are very extensive, but it all depends on where you live. There's always limitations, but common things that can be recycled are cardboard, paper, plastic, metal, glass. Items that are easily repurposed are things like textiles, furniture, household goods. And if you're curious about what can be recycled in your area, we have an online recycling guide at Nebraska Recycling Council. Also, those local Keep Nebraska Beautiful affiliates have many lists and resources. And then also just your local recycler. You can call them, see what they're accepting.
Okay, and you talked about value, right?
Yes.
There are actually things that if you find in your home and you take that extra step, you could get cash for those things. Tell us about that.
Yes. So the best form of recycling is always reuse. And a great way to reuse or to repurpose is to start selling your things. So there's easy online options like Facebook Marketplace is a great example, eBay, Mercari, ThreadUp. Those are all great websites that provide an opportunity for you to get some money back for some items that you had that you're no longer using. But then there's some other options like consignment stores. It might not be as much of a profit, but you'll be able to get some money back. And then there's those recyclable materials that you will get money back, like cardboard or paper. Once again, that does kind of depend on your location. It depends on the market. Metal is always usually something that you'll get some money back for, and gold jewelry is another great option. But all of those items just fluctuate in the prices of the recycling markets. So the best bet is to always contact your local recycler. You definitely don't want to get hit with a fee. If you go in expecting to get some money back, there are some things that you will have to pay just to recycle, like electronics. That's something if I go and say I want to recycle this old TV, they're probably going to say that's going to be $25 because it costs so much money. You have to think about recycling as like your garbage collection. You're thinking about the haulers that are hauling that away. All those people that are picking through your items and then manufacturing something new, that costs money. So it all just depends on what the item is and what the market looks like. Just contact your local recycler for all that information.
Abby, can I ask you, if people aren't really used to doing the recycling, they're watching this program about getting organized, and they're walking through their homes and kind of eyeballing all of their items, what would be the one thing that we could get into the habit of doing that would really help the big picture in terms of recycling? What's one thing, one item, or one action that we could take on a regular basis that would help?
Yeah, I think the number one action is going to be reducing that use of plastics. So switching over to anything that like cardboard or glass is going to immediately save us money and help our environment. Plastic is just not something that you can get money back for if you go to recycle it. But if you're switching over to like aluminum cans, for example, or any sort of other product that might be able to be reused over and over in your own home, then you're going to have an opportunity to save all that plastic from potentially going to the landfill or being recycled at a cheaper cost. And then also just, I would say just recycling cardboard boxes. That's an easy step for people. It's something that, you know, we often just throw it away without thinking about it, but recycling it saves so much space in our landfills.
Can I ask you, are people expected to break down those cardboard boxes before they put it in the bin, or if there's room in their bin, can they just toss the box?
Such a great question.
Thank you.
And it's something that we just don't even think about. We should break them down, and that's very just simply because when they go through those recycling machines, if they are set up, the recycling machine is going to think they're a plastic bottle. Even no matter the size, it's going to think it's like a large plastic bottle that's, you know, sturdy. If you break it down, it's flat, and then it's going to recognize it as a cardboard box and let it go through.
This has been very enlightening.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Lydia, we've been talking with Abby. She was mentioning cash for some of the items that we have in our homes as we are working to declutter. What are some of the other benefits to getting organized? And as you're talking, Lydia, we're going to put some that we found up on the screen, but I want you to talk from where you're sitting and your vantage point about what's important.
Your space is easier to clean because you don't have things sitting around. Less stress. You'll sleep better. It's a good workout if you get things cleaned up. You feel good physically. And it's more aesthetically pleasing to have a nice, neat, organized home or room to go in and enjoy.
You said it at the beginning. I mean, we have to remember, this took, in some cases, many, many years to accumulate all the stuff that would be in a home. You're not going to solve the world's problems in one day. Lydia, for those people who are watching and their hearts are in the right, they've been wanting to do this for a long time, but it is overwhelming. I mean, it truly can be very, very overwhelming. What are the little steps, even steps they could take before they called you, for example? What are some little things that they could do to start feeling much better about their environment?
Hang up their clothes, take the garbage out, try and put things where they belong. Just take one room at a time, the kitchen or the bathroom, and go through the drawers, the medicine cabinet, clean them out, throw out things. Those are easy things to do.
Okay, earlier you mentioned making the environment a little bit safer. I think sometimes when we're in the thick of something, we don't have that perspective that somebody like Lydia Christian would have. So when you say to make the home safer, what are some of the things that are lying around someone's house that may be causing potential problems?
Storing things on the stairway is not a good idea. One home that I was in, they hadn't taken the trash out, and there was so much paper behind the refrigerator, and it was still running, that I was very surprised that it didn't catch fire. You need more than pathways through your home. Cords, electrical cords, are another issue in homes that are not very organized.
Okay. Lydia, if I don't get back to you in this interview, I just want to make sure, is there anything from your perspective as a professional organizer that I have not asked you, that I should ask you to help the people at home kind of get into the right mindset of getting this done?
Let me share with you 6 habits of an organized person. Keep it simple, develop routines, a place for everything, make a list, don't worry about being perfect, and toss things daily. I
think that's a really good list, Lydia. Thank you for sharing that with us. And again, we may get back to you, but in the event we didn't, I wanted to make sure that I had covered all the bases with our professional organizer today. I do want to go to Cameron in just the minutes that we have remaining and ask you, for those older adults who are watching, and Lydia painted a very nice picture for us. They're 80 years old. Their life has been about a lot of loss. The last thing they want to do is start letting go of things. Some older adults think that their adult kids want that stuff. So Cameron, as an elder law attorney, talk to our viewers from your perspective about that.
I'd say not necessarily. You know, our society has shifted from a period of time when people used to pass away in their 50s and 60s to now they live into their 70s and 80s and 90s. So when the world was in such a state that your kids were getting started in life at the time you were retiring or passing away, they were probably happy to take, you know, that kitchen table, you know, that bandsaw, whatever else. The way it is now, by the time you retire or pass away, your kids are in their 40s, 50s, 60s. They typically don't want your stuff unless it's a really meaningful family heirloom or something like that. You know, the minute you go into the home and pass away, most of that stuff will just go to an auction. So maybe that is a conversation you do want to have with your kids before you consider downsizing. Is there any of this stuff that you actually want? There's a good chance most of it is no, we don't want this.
But I think, and Lydia brought it up too, there is such an opportunity in the midst of this chaos, right? Mm-hmm. To make life filled with more meaningful moments. Mm-hmm. So look at something differently. This might just be junk to one person and a treasure to another. Open up a conversation about why it's a treasure. Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, you may not ever shift that person's opinion, but at least you can get them to see it from your perspective, right?
Oh yeah, well, and if it's a situation where the parents are downsizing and the kids don't want it, they're, you know, like Abby was saying, you go to another market, there's somebody out there in the vintage market who would probably really love that item. And then it goes there, and then, you know, you get the kid out of college who's a hipster or whatever, who just loves his new, you know, breakfast table or I guess I can't think of other examples, you know, bed frame, whatever. That was just, you know, collecting dust in the spare bedroom at your parents' house.
Yeah, talking with our guests today about getting organized. And folks wanting more information, we do have a graphic that we want to put up for people. So National Organize Your Home Day is January 14th, for those people who didn't know. Daysoftheyear.com. The Nebraska Recycling Council, great resource, nrcne.org, 402-436-2384. I want to thank Abby Graham. I want to thank Cameron Krager, and of course Lydia Christian, who joined us via Zoom from Scottsbluff for talking with all of us today, trying to help us get our ducks in a row and get a little better organized. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at nebraskapublicmedia.org/considerthis. If you'd like to share your comments about this program, call UNO Television at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours, or send an email to cwyatt@unomaha.edu.